Okay, 23 minutes. Let's go. Tell me about this VOD.
Um,
I sent you a link to the
right.
insights as well.
Oh no, couldn't connect. Why? Strike it. Couldn't connect to the live stream. Why?
Okay, give me 1 sec. I'll just make it again. I could have made it private because I'm an idiot.
Hmm.
Live session.
So it's
yeah,
just.
I'm an idiot. Yeah, that's my mistake.
Okay. It's just a improvement VOD, I guess. I mean, our last VOD was a while ago, but
yeah,
hopefully it's like you can now at least say like, hey, your CrossFit placement. I mean, it's not great, but hey, it's not a complete crap. So um, and I'm mostly focusing on Reyna and Phoenix. I've
okay,
sort of given up on Cypher, so this is a Reyna VOD.
okay.
Um, so I'm sort of looking for tips regarding her as well as overall like positioning, crosshair placement, all that good stuff.
Cool. Okay. And where are you rank wise right now?
Currently silver 2.
Okay.
I think I was bronze 1 the last time I can't remember. But
Yeah, I don't remember either. I don't think I'm sure I asked, but I don't think we wrote it down.
mhm.
So it doesn't really matter. But that's still, I mean, that's still a fair improvement, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I think maybe I'd be higher, I don't know, but I'm very picky with regards to like when I play. I'm really like, do I want to play? Do I feel like playing? Yes, then I'll play, and if not, I'll just play unrated or something.
I see. Okay, yeah, I feel that.
Because I swear this game takes more out of me than like Overwatch.
Really? Okay.
It
That's
feels like it. I don't know.
surprising.
Maybe it's just 40-minute games or taxing. I don't know.
It's maybe a bit more, or it's different because I think in Overwatch you can autopilot a bit more and get away with it. Whereas I
Mm-hmm.
think you have to concentrate a lot more in this game. Okay, so like
Mm-hmm.
first things like so straight away in this round, I mean we talked about buying stuff before, right? The first round we want to make sure we
Mm-hmm.
spend all our money.
Yep.
This is probably fine. You've at least bought something. But
Mm-hmm.
okay, so typically we want to try and find value with our flash, like as
Mm-hmm.
early as possible. That's a pretty typical thing. Our Phoenix is actually looking for a push here, right? Um,
Yep.
are you in a stack with any of these people, or are you just playing solo?
No. Solo.
Okay, so even if it's unrated, it's probably worth trying to communicate something like this, simply because
Okay.
it's good practice. You know, like you want to try and make a coordinated push in the first round almost always. Um, Pistol rounds are very much about stacking up and trying to play like some sort of man advantage. And a lot of the
Mm-hmm.
time on Haven, getting control of like Ford's A positions is really, really powerful because it can give you a lot of intel.
Mm-hmm.
And this is probably the most common position for people to be pushing forwards.
So my
So,
main question is like when okay, so with pushing, like I've sort of got the impression that it's not a good idea to push, but you're saying to push. So when do I decide like when to push, when to just not push and let them come to me?
I think it depends on whether you're being punished or not, and
Oh,
you
okay.
have to start out by pushing, pretty
Okay.
much. I mean, unless it's a passive play, but regardless, you have to be getting info. Standing where you are right now is like no matter what you're doing, standing where you are right now is definitely not the play. Like absolutely 100%. There's
Okay.
no reason to ever be stood on this site at the start of the round, right? Like
Okay.
100% you should be peeking this angle here. Absolutely 100% you should be peeking that angle because you need to check if they cross, right? You need to
Okay.
look down that angle and check if they cross onto short. Absolutely 100% you need to be doing that.
Okay.
Beyond that, the pushing, not pushing thing is there's an argument to be made both ways. If you,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you have a cipher playing C. The
Mm-hmm.
difficulty is right. Let's imagine you don't push, right?
Yep.
And you play passive on site and you don't check anything.
Mm-hmm.
How are you to know that they're not going to rush C as 5 people?
That's fair. Okay.
Like you're not, right? And then your cipher dies, and then it's 4v5, and it's a retake, and you've lost. Like it just doesn't
Mm-hmm.
happen. If they have a man advantage in a retake situation, they should win. So it's to avoid that kind of thing, right? That's why you're pushing. It's for info more than anything else. But like, if you get a kill, you get a kill, right? The more important thing is that you waste a bit of their time and you get some information about how they're playing, right? If you're able to push and you can walk up into this area for free, that's great, right? Like, you just probably just won the round just by being in this forward position. Because if they then go to A, great, and if they go to B, you've then got a quick rotation through to mid window. And if not, if the second you hear something on C, you can already start going on this flank, right? And you've then got a fast flank.
Okay.
It's to give you options, right? Whereas if you play on the site and he's like, they're all coming C, by the time you've walked all the way through CT spawn, this guy's died and this guy's died, and it's a 3v5 or a 3v4,
okay.
right? And then you physically can't win the round.
Okay.
So right at the start here, right? Like I said, there's no reason to be playing on site at all.
Okay.
Like, you have to at least be peeking this angle, because if they now rush you, you won't have any how your team ever like I said, you're not going to have any opportunity to go somewhere else if they are somewhere else, because you won't have any info. And if they rush A, how much time are you actually going to be able to give your team to rotate to you?
Okay.
None, right? Like the second you see them, they're literally already on the site, dude, right? Like, and you're like, oh, they're coming A. Your team are going to be like, oh, well, great, and you're dead before they even get there, right?
Okay.
Unless you're playing Heaven, which people do that, but they tend to do it with a Cypher because they can slow them down enough, and they can actually get some picks. Reyna doesn't really afford you that. And Reyna's a really aggressive character, right? Like, ultimately, if you're going to get value, it's by killing people, right? Even more so than anyone else, because your abilities only find value once someone is dead, right?
Yep.
So playing passively doesn't really lend itself to you. Like, it's always going to be some sort of aggressive peak.
Okay.
So we should never be just chilling here on A, right? And now imagine a world where we'd already done this push and we'd done it earlier in the round, right? We're already here, right? We're already deep into their spawn behind these guys, and this flank comes through really quickly. But we didn't get any info, right? So we weren't able to make that play. We didn't even peek. But
all right, I get it.
Fortunately, your Cypher makes some pretty good plays.
One enemy remaining.
That's all my bad, guys. That's all my bad.
Not sure why he's saying it's his bad when he was in a 1v5. Like, okay, sorry. Let's just go back to see how much money you have here. Okay. So if you had 3,400, which is something that you sometimes end up with on the second round, I'd be saying buy a rifle, but with 3,200, it's actually okay to buy a Spectre.
Oh, I normally, even if I had 3,400, I would always go Spectre. My thinking, correct me, I'm sure you'll correct me, is in case they do kill me, that's a free Phantom. And like, this round is the eco round for them, so it's like, I don't know. How's that thought process?
But if you get a Spectre now, what happens when they buy rifles in the third round?
Would I not trade it out, or is that
you can't?
Bad
you don't have enough money.
Oh, yeah. Okay. All right.
That's
the
issue, right? Or if you do, you're back down to 0 econ. Or worse, you have a Spectre, you then die, but you go into the third round. Maybe it doesn't matter whether you've won or lost. You then will not have money for a rifle, but they will.
Okay.
So it's playing the long game essentially, right? Buying 5 rifles would be dumb, right? Like, that wouldn't make any sense because it's going to damage your economy. But say buying 2 rifles, that's good, right? Because your team can just pick them up. Like, you've got to remember that, like, you've got to think of the economy as shared in that way. You can't just think of it from, like, one perspective. You've got to, like, realize that there's got to be a mix in here, too. A lot of the time as well, people will not buy anything. They'll buy no guns. They'll just buy heavy shields and stick with a ghost. Which is also okay, right? You then have full utility. You've got this, and you're just saving money for that third round where you're going to need the money to buy.
Okay.
Like those are the two better economy plays, really. Sometimes, like, oh no, not sometimes. Pretty much always, there will be some people with specters because you want to make sure you have some sort of advantage into that round, right? But having a couple of rifles or having a couple of people with ghosts, it's fine, right? It plays the long game in terms of your economy.
Okay.
Typically, like a typical buy, in my opinion, would be 2 people with ghosts, 2 people with specters, and 1 person with a phantom. Like across the whole
Okay.
team.
So badly this past couple of days.
And I guess like playing Reyna, it's maybe makes a little bit more sense to have a have a specter
Just kidding, dude.
because
Mhm.
you'll kind of play a bit more aggressive and your death is kind of more likely.
Mhm.
Okay, so let's think about how we want to play with the specter, right? We do not want to be in an engagement where 5 people are coming around here. Like,
Yep.
So are we going to make the same mistake here of just staying on site?
Probably. Or do I walk forward? I can't remember. I
Right,
think I
because
wait.
how long is it going to be until they walk around that corner?
A good 5-6 seconds, give or take.
Way longer than that. Even if they're walking from here, it's like 20 seconds probably because they're going to check it. They're not just all going to run with their knives out, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Right. Why wouldn't we ever be here? There's no extra
Okay.
danger being on that corner than being on this corner, right? Except this one you can peek and get the early warning system for your team. You don't have to. You don't necessarily have to push, but if you're there and you peek, right? You're peeking. You're seeing if anyone's into this space here on the map, right? And if you see someone, you could just wait. You're just timing them, right? And you're like, okay, wait 5 seconds, and then flash out.
Okay.
Awesome, right? And then you're catching them with your flash, and you're actually like actively trying to outplay them. If you're playing here, you can make that same play that like wait until they kind of committed it to this space here, and then look for a flash out. But you have 2 opportunities if you also do that on this forwards corner, right?
Okay. All right.
I hear it, boys.
It goes for anyone, not just Reyna, right? Like if I was playing Phoenix as well.
Yeah. If you were playing Phoenix, you should definitely be playing aggressively there.
Okay. There's a fucking gap.
Last
One enemy remaining. Flawless.
So in this situation here, there's 2 things you have to remember. 1, they only have pistols, and 2, you have an escape. Right? What are you so scared of?
Yep. Good point. Yep. Okay.
And as well, like this is one of those things where you're on silver for a reason, and I think a lot of this is, I mean, we're only 2 rounds in, but right now we're playing way too scared, right? We're not like pushing ourselves to find value. We're just kind of sat there, not really contributing, right?
Yep.
We haven't found any info. I mean, yeah, we've done some damage to people, but like in a situation where they're literally walking into our crosshair, you know?
Yeah.
So this is 3rd round. This is their buy round.
Mhm.
So we're definitely going to be at a weapon disadvantage here.
Yeah, I'm gonna.
So at this point, playing aggressive becomes even more valuable to you, right?
You can stand right here.
Because an engagement from this range, if someone's here, it's not something you physically can't then fight them with your Spectre, right? So trying to get yourself in close range is something that is going to be better for you. And I think like the key thing with a lot of this, like the info's super important, but like so like this would go for any character you're playing, even if you're not playing someone that should be super aggressive, right? Like even if you were playing Sage on this site, I wouldn't say that you shouldn't be pushing. You know, not pushing every round maybe, but peeking at least, right? Trying to get some info. But it's even more important when you're playing Phoenix or Reyna, right? Like your whole job is to entry frag. Like that is literally your purpose in the team, right? You have the utility that allows you to do that. Flashes make this possible for you, and if you're not using them, then you're not finding value, right? I mean, that last round, that pistol round, we still had a flash and 3. I don't know what you call this, but 3 of your resource, right?
Yep.
And put it right.
So we're making the same mistake again, right? Like
Yep.
If you're playing Cypher, maybe how you're playing here makes a little bit of sense. But
Okay.
even then, it's a stretch, right? It's a stretch.
That is,
And we're going back
very
rather than pushing.
mid.
Our Phoenix is making the right play here.
Okay.
116.
Because they can't, because if he makes this push, they then can't rotate back to A without you having an early warning.
Phoenix coming in.
One enemy remaining.
Phoenix is outside, yeah.
Weapon here. Here.
So it definitely feels like we're not eager enough to push.
Yeah.
Sage can buy you, Phoenix.
I need a drop.
Need a drop.
Thanks, baby.
I thought I was Phoenix because I know.
There you go.
Okay, so play more aggressive. All right, cool.
Didn't mean to
They
get it
want
right
to
there,
die.
but-
It's not just about playing more aggressive, right? It's that you're literally AFK. Like, not to be rude, but like this is terrible, right? Like I really need to stress how bad it is that if you play like this, because you're not finding any value at all, right? They were here. They were literally all out on mid, and you had no idea that there was no one that stood in front of A, right? You should have already, you should already be here by that point. There's no one contesting you. You should have walked all the way through, right?
There comes the
Okay.
So I'm guessing this is going to be a bit more of the same.
Boys, eh?
That we're just kind of chilling and not doing anything,
I'm smoking A long.
I'm chilling at C.
right? And we have no idea what's going on because we haven't peeked. We're completely in the dark.
Yep.
Right, and this is what's going to make your experience playing this game really hard, because you got no idea, right? So you're just having to concentrate like 100% of the time. You got no idea whether there's anyone there. So at any moment, someone could just just walk around that corner on A.
Oh,
You sure it's in?
Yep.
I'll peek mid. Keep going, Omen. He's left side behind box.
So again, we just saw two guys in front of A, and we're rotating off of A. Just because there were two guys mid, we still have no info, right? We still have
Yep.
absolutely no idea what's going on.
Unless he ran. They're going mid. One garage.
In sight.
Last player standing.
Oh, the sage was there too.
So we're kind of asking for that there, to be totally honest.
Yeah.
Because she actually shoots. Look.
In sight.
Yep.
You
I
knew
missed that.
You knew the sage was there because she just shot your orb. Also, I need to make this point too. That if you throw the orb from here, can you follow up on it?
No.
Absolutely not in a million years, right? That orb is going to be dead before you go around the corner. In which
Okay.
case, how much use is it to you?
Yep.
Like
Right.
zero, right? Like it's completely useless to you. There's no way you can find value on the back of that orb. Like the amount of time you have to peek in on the back of your orb is the amount of time it takes someone to move their crosshair and shoot it and kill it, right? Which is a very short amount of time. So you really must make sure that you're doing that. On top of that, you really want to be careful about where you're throwing it, because if you're throwing it where you would be peeking into, they're going to shoot at the orb and they're going to shoot at you if you peek into it, right? So it's well worth... I'll just go back and just show you again, right? Like look at the direction that you throw it, right?
In sight.
So think about where this is going to be in terms of like elevation to where their crosshair is, right? That's a crosshair height for them. That's perfect, right? That's really well perfect for them. Really easy for them to shoot, right? Whereas if you throw it on the floor or if you throw it up in the sky, it's way harder for them to deal with it, right? Because they then have to move their crosshair.
Okay.
Essentially, you want to avoid I'm just draw it in front of you, but like you essentially want to avoid throwing it in this space where basically the person was stood there. that kind of deal this person's terrible, but you understand what I'm saying, right? If your orb is anywhere in that space, they're not going to have to adjust their crosshair.
Okay.
Because typically they'll be aiming like right in the middle, right? Putting it down here or putting it up here. Like those are probably the two best positions that you can put it.
Okay.
Because you don't want, if you put it too high, then they're just kind of, they'll just move their.
The sage was there too.
They can look down basically, and so long as it's not in their field of view, it's not an issue.
All right.
So we're not finding any like. I want to make it clear that I don't mean to play more aggressive. I just mean that you have to be finding some sort of value, right?
Yeah.
I don't mean that you have to push into the enemy team. Like, if that's not your playstyle, that's not your playstyle.
Not alright.
Yeah.
Okay. And here in this situation, absolutely 100% do not buy the bulldog. It is that much worse. It is worth having light shields.
Oh,
Like,
okay.
No question about it. Absolutely 100% buy light shields and a phantom is better.
Okay.
100%.
Especially since my team is full buying as well.
If they come
Yeah.
across you, you can get one right here.
Well,
Okay.
even so, right? Like, it's irrelevant. You would always buy light armor and a phantom over a bulldog.
Okay.
On the platform next time you do that. It's a better angle.
Because the time to kill on the bulldog's so much longer.
Mm-hmm.
You essentially have, like, if you end up in a one-on-one duel, you have a chance with the phantom because you can headshot, right?
Yeah.
But your headshot damage isn't as much with the bulldog, so you don't have a chance basically. They will kill you by shooting you in the body before you'll kill them, even if you headshot them. So again, we're AFK,
See?
right?
I got you.
And they say C, and instantly we decide to go back through spawn, right? This is telling of your playstyle, right?
Mm-hmm.
And again, this goes back to the fact that we're playing Reyna, right?
Mm-hmm.
We really don't want to be playing Reyna like this.
I gave up.
Okay.
You know, you're a balls to the wall, aggressive character, right? Like, you have all this utility that enables you to do that, right? You can kite them for a million years because you've got your escape, and your heal. Like, you want to be in a position that's aggressive, right?
Sage.
Go back to chip garage.
There was still Reyna and Sage over here.
I killed garage.
Why? Like, this guy is literally up here, and you're stood here with an orb out,
Yep.
right? Like, does that make any sense?
Enemy down.
Might be one in cubby. not sure.
Spectre. And you notice that your whole team's talking, and you haven't said a single word.
Yeah.
Like, there's not been a single time you're like, okay, I'm gonna flash for you. Like, if that's like, because that other flash that you made on B would have been maybe slightly better if you'd said to your Sage, "Wait for my flash," and then he peeks into your flash, right?
Okay.
Because he died while you were stood there with a flash in your hands.
Mm-hmm. Huh? Why did I not zoom in? That's my bad.
I'm not sure why you would zoom in. Zooming in is
I'm gonna
bad.
go mid.
Doesn't it do more damage or something?
No,
Mid.
Oh, okay.
I don't believe so. Maybe it does with the bulldog. It's
Zoomed in.
just tends to mean a slower fire rate.
Oh, okay.
But if all you hit is headshots, like doing it with a vandal is okay. But there's kind of only really specific situations where you might do it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you want to batter up, you can. If you don't want to, you don't have to.
Thank you.
Oh, okay. And like this shouldn't really happen as Reyna
Yeah.
or Phoenix, in fact.
Mm-hmm.
Like, either you're fragging like crazy, or you're like, at this point, maybe like, if it's going really badly for you, like 2 and 5 or 2 and 6, right? Going negative KD isn't an issue. That just tells you that you need to go practice your aim, or you're making bad decisions.
Mm-hmm.
So again, we're doing nothing. We see the whole enemy teams on the other side of the map. We're going to go rotate through CT. So we're going to miss out on like a shitload of value. And you notice, and our Phoenix has absolutely got the right idea here, that he's going for these flanks every time.
Yep.
Maybe it's at the point where he's probably doing it a little bit too much.
On default.
Race could be garage.
Spike planted.
Okay. No point using a heal there.
Mm-hmm. I was just forced to have
Almost,
it.
almost certainly. So do you not use your escape?
Uh,
Your-
yeah, but I think not at the best times, I guess you could
Okay,
say.
because like here for sure, definitely be using your escape.
Okay.
Mostly because we don't know what's going on.
Spike
If
planted.
you'd wait like just
Mhm.
half a second, walk up a little bit, and then use it, you can peek around this corner whilst you're invulnerable, and you can actually check the site then, right, without having to peek
Okay.
it.
One enemy remaining.
So that was kind of the right idea. Well, no, it wasn't, but you see how it worked out, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you definitely didn't have the idea that you were going to use that to check, but that's what you should be using it for. Like,
Mhm.
using it to figure out their position.
Nice shit. Last bullet too.
Yeah. Okay. I get it.
And again, in this situation, prior to this point, back. Okay, I won't go back, but like before your Phoenix. No, we're gonna go back. We're going back. Fine. Here, before your Phoenix dies, you should
Mhm.
say, "Wait for my flash," unless he's
Okay.
gonna flash himself out.
One enemy remaining.
And one example of people being really terrible was the Sage. Like, he just showed the level of tier you're in, because he jumped into your crosshair.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, like, unbinding your jump key would be probably most of the time actually fine.
Okay.
Hey Reyna, can you drop a gun for me so I can use that skin?
Need a drop. Thank you.
Damn. Gonna hold an angle with an op. It's not even that cool.
Go back to the same positions.
Like, so at this point, like, again, regardless of how terrible this position is, playing the same
Mhm.
position 6 rounds in a row, that's a no-no, right? Because it's predictable. I think
Okay.
maybe it's not such a big issue in this specific situation. Other than the positions are terrible, like the position is objectively terrible. But playing any position on a site right now, if you're stuck at the same position, it wouldn't be such a big deal because they've not come A. They've never
Mhm.
actually got to the site.
I'll show that brimstone true power.
But regardless, we should be peaking. We should be trying to find some value, right?
Yep. Thinking A. They smoked A.
Like, you're thinking A based on what? You have literally no info at all.
No, I said they smoked A.
Oh, did you? Oh, I thought you said
Yeah.
thinking A. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I said that and then they smoked A. So I figured that's the better call. They smoked A.
That's everyone there.
Cutting their vision.
Flashing up.
Joke's over! You're
Still
dead!
in sight.
Yay. Hello?
So in these situations, it's worth going into the smokes usually.
Oh, okay.
They're pushing site.
And here we should have used our escape, not our heal.
Yep. I didn't press the right button.
But I think like it looks to me like you've got a really bad habit of just automatically pressing your heal every time.
Yeah.
You need to train that out of yourself, like right now.
Mhm.
My bones.
It may be worth changing both of the key bindings for them both.
Yeah,
Because
it
you then
might
need-
work actually.
Well, I mean, to start with, right? Like, you can change them back to something convenient later on, but
Mhm.
if you change them both, then it'll make you actually actively engage your brain when you're going to press
Mhm.
them. Okay, let's skip to the T side because otherwise
Okay.
we're halfway through, right? And I don't want to. like these playstyle issues are going to be
We won 10
considerably
rounds
more
on
impactful on the
defensive
T side.
versus attacker side.
Yeah.
So if we're this scared on the CT, what's it going to look like on the T side, right? Like, how are we going to find any value if we play anything like we did on the CT side?
Mm-hmm.
Going A. Going A. Going A. Going A.
Usually buys a chair. I mean,
Now, where to set up shop?
Oh, when you have spike.
That was dangerous.
So this was like really terribly played. I'm just going to put that out there.
Hmm.
Why?
We aren't really moving.
Okay. In
I'm
what
not
sense?
using abilities. We're just standing there.
But specifically
we're-
from your perspective, like, how is this really poorly played?
I'm not really doing anything.
I mean, okay, we're like 3 seconds into the round. You've maybe not had the opportunity to do very much.
Okay.
In terms of how you're positioned,
I'm not in front, like where the Phoenix is, maybe?
no, that's not what I'm looking at. The key issue here, and this is like fundamentals, is that you don't ever expose yourself to 2 angles at the same time if you can avoid it. And you're currently
Okay.
stood where you can get crossfired. You're about
Yep.
to be stood where you can get crossfired, right?
Mm.
Because you're peeking onto this angle whilst you're still exposed to this guy here,
Yep.
who, by
Okay.
the way, kills your teammate that's here, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is a problem, right? And then we don't instantly, our crosshair should have been over here the second that Omen was dead. And we're still now in a position where we can get shot from both angles.
Yep.
This then comes out, and then we then walk backwards where we can get shot from both angles, right? This whole time we've got absolutely no awareness that we can be shot from these angles, right?
Mhm.
Like, this is a really
Okay.
significant awareness issue where we're just exposing ourselves to angles without having any idea that we are,
Mhm.
right? This is incredibly problematic. Like, this will get you killed a million billion times.
Yep. Okay.
And we're completely lost, right? We're completely lost as to what's going on in this situation, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, making a fast play at this, like, it really depends what your plan was at the start of this round. Like, your Phoenix, like, your Surface says, let's go A, but he doesn't. It's not clear at all what the actual plan is in this round, right? If it's to rush A, if it's to fake A, if it's to rush A, but like maybe then we have the option of faking depending on how it goes, right? Like, there's no discussion of what our plan is into this round. So that always makes it a little bit tougher. And I guess that's kind of an issue that you'll have in 99% of games that you play,
Mhm.
where there's kind of no discussion about what your strategy is. Not that that's an excuse for you to, like, not say something.
There's one left.
Yeah.
Wow, he got incredibly lucky.
Last player standing.
He got a fucking ace.
Dude, next time can you tell me if you're gonna volley, dude?
Stand tall.
14 damage.
We are Valorant. We are fighters.
Mm-hmm.
So just
Mhm.
don't buy anything.
Yep. Good.
Okay, so don't buy a flash. You're now at 1600.
Mm-hmm.
So can you buy next round?
Not a full buy, unless I use literally nothing.
And how likely is that flash to find value in this round?
Probably not.
Like, incredibly unlikely. The one extra for that, like, having 2 flashes. Like, having 1 compared to 0 flashes, yeah.
Hmm.
There's one backside.
I don't know.
You're right.
Cutting their vision.
Oh,
Lord.
shit, I remember this.
What the hell are you doing? So how should we play this?
Not in the middle of the road, I'm guessing.
Yeah, you can't engage them at range, so how do you have to play it?
Sneak around to the right, I'm guessing.
Absolutely, you have to get close range to them. You're going to be effing useless at this range, right? Like, we
Yep.
absolutely must be trying to get close range, and there are a ton of 2 ways that we could do that, right? Either we kind of follow this arc, where we go up the
Mhm.
inside of this, or we go around, like you said. Going around
Okay.
is probably shit because Phoenix is here and he's just going to shoot you as you come around the corner, right? Like he's going to have line of sight if you peek
Okay.
around here. So probably your only option is to walk up the inside of this and get close range. You don't even necessarily like have to peek. If you get to this position and you then go bloop 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 right and you start planting, they're going to peek into you. And typically I'd say that's a really terrible play. Like in most situations that would be a really terrible play. Because you don't really want them peeking into you when you're planting because you're at a disadvantage that way. But it's kind of the only way you can put yourself in a situation where it's actually viable for you, right, with the Bucky. Or being on this corner and peeking around it, like jiggle peeking it, right? Because if you're at this distance, one, again, this is the whole thing where we've like got zero awareness that they can peek us from multiple angles. So we're just letting this guy be able to kill us because we didn't think he could be here. And again, we don't know that back sight is clear or not, so there could well be a guy stood behind the box, right? And then he could peek out into this angle. You have no idea, right? You've not cleared it. So how can we justify swinging wide of all things with a Bucky, right? Like none of this makes any sense, right? At all. Like there's a lot of factors here that make this make no sense, right? But like biggest one for me would be awareness that multiple people can peek into you. And two, you've got to realize, dude, I picked up a Bucky. I've got to play to my gun, right? If you've got a Bucky or you've got an auto shotty, or even if it's a Spectre, you've got to think, how does that differ from a rifle? How am I supposed to play with it, right? Because they don't all play the same.
Last player standing.
94 damage.
So this would have been much better, like I said, by baiting them into the angle.
Players.
Okay.
So the only way we can really play this is close up here. We jiggle peek, we shoot this guy. And you then have, at least you then have hard cover to play around, right? But back here, you got no chance. Absolutely no chance. Also, from here, like you've literally half your range, right? He's literally twice as close to you. So you maybe have a chance.
Last player standing.
Okay, next round.
Broken.
Bro, I'm looking so bad. The brim was like completely flashed, and you just blindly shot.
So I'm interested to see what you're going to do here. Because flashes are essential for you to be able to perform your job.
Where we thinking, boys?
So,
So
buying,
in that
buying
case-
0 flashes is definitely a no-no.
You guys want by B?
Okay.
Wait, Sage, we can just
So
bait.
what should I have done in that scenario?
What do you think, based on what I've said already?
I guess the light armor.
Absolutely, 100%, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Unless you have utility that you can
What do you
sell,
want?
right? Like,
You guys think
which you don't, right? Because you already have 4.
Yeah.
They were bought the previous round.
Enemy spotted.
Hey, brim 55 or 50.
Oh Lord, this is Papagas here. I'm only saying that because both you and this guy walk out and you stand still while you're shooting. Or you like not while the burst is happening, but between bursts you're standing still in the same spot, right?
Yeah.
That is like an issue, right? Because they're gonna realize where you're shooting from and they're gonna shoot back at you.
Yeah.
And basically always like stutter stepping is always the way to go. Okay, if you put yourself into that, I'm just going to put this out there, right? Like, clearly your brain goes to this position, but if you put yourself in this position, what's going to happen to your two teammates at the top of long? Or mid, sorry.
Probably get shot.
Like, if someone peeks out here, what's going to happen, right?
I mean, they'll be the bait, essentially.
They'll both be dead.
Yeah.
And you've gone back, like, in their minds, you've gone back here to cover this angle.
Yeah.
So essentially, by going back here, all you're doing is baiting them and letting them die. Is that okay?
No.
Like, absolutely not. Baiting your teammates is something that's like a real pet peeve for a lot of people. It's really problematic. Like, you look like a right arsehole doing that as well. And maybe this is just for lack of understanding, but like, yeah, going here is really terrible. Like, really, really terrible. Because those two guys at top are both going to just like this guy's going to come around and he's going to spray both of them down. And even if you kill him, it was worth for him. It was a 2-for-1 trade, right?
Yeah.
Whereas at least if you stood in the middle of fucking nowhere and you're stood like literally here, that's better. That's still better, right? Because your teammates should maybe be able to trade with him, right? Or if they don't, or it's just a 1 for 0.
You're dead.
But yeah, we definitely can't rotate ourselves into that cubby.
One enemy remaining.
Last one's back C site.
Don't see.
Yeah, back C. He used his ult. He only has a marshal. He might have gotten my vandal at long.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
And again, notice that you're the last person to push
Yeah.
when you should be the first, right? Because you have your heal.
Okay.
I mean, it doesn't, maybe not in this situation, but like that should be your default play.
Yeah.
Your default mode should be I'm the one leading the charge.
Mm-hmm.
Like way too scared. Like it's a really big issue, the lack of impact that you're having in this game. Like and I think part of the issue here is you're maybe like fixating on the scoreboard, and you're thinking that you're having a positive impact, which is like absolutely not the case. Like honestly, like you're having that impact because you're better than them, right? Like you're just straight up better. Your aim is just better, right? But you should be having double this number of kills. I'm like not even joking, right? Like if you want to climb, you should be having double that number of kills. Like 30 kills in a game. If you're having less than 30 kills in a game, like you're probably not playing to your maximum.
Okay.
And I mean that in all honesty. Like people who are ranked Valorant will get, you know, high 20s, 30 kills in a game, right? If you're not doing that, like you're not playing to the best that you can be in whatever skill tier you are.
Yep.
So it's actually interesting because it's something that maybe like Overwatch gives us a bit of advantage. I don't know, maybe not, because like gold damage is kind of something that will like maybe put you off, but yeah, like being top of the scoreboard isn't everything. It really isn't. Fixating on kills is like a real issue. I mean, I'm sure that you're not, but like, you know, the scoreboard is a bit misleading here, that it makes it look like you're doing pretty well. Also, if you're peeking this angle, oh God's sake, I have to actually go back while it's playing. Do we need to be holding the spike?
I think I forgot I had it.
Okay, that's a problem. Always check whether you have the spike, and if you do, put it down. You don't want to be carrying the spike, especially not as Reyna or Phoenix, right?
Okay.
If you're going to stick to Reyna or Phoenix, you never want to be carrying the spike, like unless you're literally the only person alive, right? You don't want to be carrying the spike. Put the spike down here, or put it down somewhere along that back wall, right? Anywhere kind of like anywhere on these dots tends to be like the places that people put them, in those corners, because it's harder for the enemies to find them, right? But like, yeah, those are kind of like typical positions to put it. But you definitely don't want to be carrying it, because if you die, then the enemies see it, and then they all 5 of them move to that position, right? And even if your whole team's alive, even if it's still 4v5, it becomes an issue because the enemy team has a load of info, right? And they can then make a play based on that. Like this game, Valorant, is all about info and playing around that, right? And the higher you go, the more relevant that's going to become. And I think that's maybe like something that you're missing a lot here, is that you're having no info at all.
Go somewhere else.
Yeah, or I'm just trying to wait for the info to come to me.
Yeah.
When I should try to seek it out.
One enemy remaining.
What the fuck was he doing?
Why is he there? Oh yeah, he went around.
Match point.
One more win, and we're getting out for drinks, lads.
To be honest, I forgot I had the spike. Okay, I have the spike.
I think one of the things as well you got to realize, like think back to Overwatch, right? And you think about controlling or taking space, right? And how that like eventually wins you games because you can control the position of the enemy team, right? And that also gives you, but in this game it's even more important because by taking space you're getting information, right, about where the enemies are. And this goes for both attack and defense. Attack, it's more like, okay, we're going to group up as several people and we're going to push a particular part of the map. We're either going to get a kill and be able to push, or we're gonna be able to get a kill and move back, or we're gonna force a rotation, right? Like you have a lot of options, and it tends to be like, you know, you make an aggressive play as a group, you get a kill or whatever, and then you decide. You then have one of like 3 options, right? Like you wait a little bit and you go again. You go straight on that pick quickly, or you go back and you go somewhere else. And you basically mix it up between those 3 things to kind of like, I guess, fake it out to the enemy, right? So that they're not really clear on what's going on. Because then info is really, really hard, right? Like they then might have a piece of info, but you've baited them, right? It's a fake. So again, we've got the bomb here. We don't really want to be the one with the bomb.
Okay. Okay.
Sage on the deal. Sage?
Oh, what the Raise is probably gonna flank.
Yep, I'm sitting.
Come on, let's go.
So I'm just going to put, like, at this point, where do you think the enemies are or trying to go? I'm just going to go back, like,
Sage on the deal.
at this point, what are the enemies going to be doing?
Running to C.
Literally all of them are going to be running to C right now, right? We know exactly what's going to, like, we basically have info. So, given that we can't aggress directly on this pick, and this kind of goes back to what I was saying before, like, what should we be doing?
I'm out. I'm sorry.
So this is like more of a macro question, but it's still relevant because you're the one carrying the bomb. So they're all going to be running to C, right? Like you're about to have 5 enemies on C because they're terrible, right? They're going to think straight away this is C, right? So why don't we just go A? What happens if we go A?
Okay.
We just win, right? Because they've all rotated to C. Right? And this is the kind of like instance I'm talking about where like you get a pick, you can't really capitalize on that pick because by the time you've walked up, there are probably a few people on C, right? But you can just play slow, right? And you want to stick with the man advantage that you've got. It should be like, okay, guys, let's group up and go A. Like, seriously. Or maybe this Sage can catch someone rotating through B. And then you can go B. But, like, regardless, like, definitely aggressing onto C here is a really bad idea. But it's clear that you're not, like, you're not actively thinking about it, right? You're just kind of, like, flopping through the game and hoping that things work out. You don't have a plan, right?
Yeah, no.
Like, and this is clear based on those other rounds, is like you're just playing reactively, like you didn't have a plan at all about what you're going to do. You're just like, I'll just sit on site and wait until the enemies come into me, right? You have no plan to try and outplay them or to force them into a particular situation, right? You're just kind of letting them do what they want to do rather than forcing them to do something, right?
Okay.
And you've got no info, so you then, like, you can't try and influence what they're trying to do or come up with a new plan. Your plan literally relies on them coming to A site. As how you play defense, right? So here, like I said, this is a little problematic because there's probably like there should be a million enemies on C. In fact, there were, right? They're literally all there. Okay, one's connector, and the other guy was pushing through A, but he was trying to get to C, right? Okay. So I think there's actually there's quite a few things here that we need to discuss. So, even right, and this is even in a game where you win 13-4. So I can't imagine what a bad game looks like. Well, I can actually. I can imagine exactly what a bad game looks like, where you're just sitting on site and doing nothing, and then they walk onto site and they headshot you, and you just had no impact at all. I can definitely feel that your bad games are really, really bad because you feel like you're just like stood on site doing nothing, and then suddenly they walk on site and they kill you. They just have to win the duel, right?
Yeah.
You have no room for outplay at all. Or big braining them, right? So, what would you say is the most important thing? So, should we start? Or do you want to like break it up into defense and offense, or no? We can just go through it as a whole because some of these points are general.
Yeah.
So, what would you say? What are you going to go and change next game you play?
Not gonna just sit somewhere, try to, gather information, whether it regard where they sorry. Yeah, not sit somewhere, try to push out, especially if there is like a call out, like say there's C, I'm playing A, I mean there's no point of like waiting and just maybe go around the other way to flank them.
Yeah. So I think there's two things that we've got there. Trying to gather info, right? You can't just sit in it. You can't just hide in a corner.
Yep.
That's the first thing. Second one is you just said at the end there, like trying to flank, like trying actively to flank, right? Actively trying to find a flank. Right, and this is especially as Reyna, because you could be a distraction for a really long time. It's maybe less so as Phoenix, because he doesn't have quite the same survivability that Reyna does. So you can't maybe get away with it for quite as much or quite as often. So it's maybe less important on Phoenix, but more important on Reyna. Okay. Anything else? It's definitely more. Obviously.
I guess also be the engager and not
Absolutely,
wait for
right.
everyone else to do it.
Absolutely, right. As an entry frag, you have to be entrying, right? It's as simple as that, right? Like,
yep.
Playing Phoenix or Reyna means you are the entry, right? And everything's in the name. That means you need to enter, right? So you should be first. You should be leading the charge and using your utility to do that, right?
Yep.
Okay.
So essentially, I'm the tank in Overwatch.
yeah. Well, it's the same kind of thing. Yes. I mean, not exactly, but yeah, you have the utility to do it, right? When other people don't. Same kind of idea, yeah, because you got to be the one that's taking space per se. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Definitely, 100%. We should be leading that charge, whether it's on attack or defense, right? Regardless of that, you should be the one making the call to make a push. Okay. Anything else?
This might stop playing passively. I guess that's more general and probably.
Well, it goes with all of those things, right? A lot of these things is stop playing. Like, okay, push yourself, right? Is kind of what I'd be looking for. Is that like you can't just expect things to happen, make things happen, right? And like it's not just like a passivity issue, because it's like, I mean, it is and it isn't, because like it's not even like you're peaking, right? Like it's not just that you're playing passive. It's even worse than that, right? Like you're not even peaking, you know, like on A, getting info, like make something happen is what I'd be looking for, right? Don't just wait for stuff to happen, make stuff happen. Okay, sorry, I'm just typing it down. Yeah, don't wait for stuff to happen, make stuff happen, right?
Okay.
Another thing, switch things up. If you're getting to the point where you've realized that you need to start pushing and you need to look for info, switch things up. Push to one position. Hold that position. Just peek. Just get that info. Or go all the way aggressively on a flank, right? You have all these different, like, I guess, variants in your aggression, right? You could be really aggressive and try and push all the way into the flank, right? And have absolutely no fear for one round. Or you can just push and like go into like that this position on A, right? The one that I've indicated here. If you're playing defense, right? Go into that position, just hold it, just wait, right? Switch up your playstyle is what we're looking for here, right? Like, if nothing else, if you're not gonna like take the aggressive stuff on board, at least don't do the same thing every single round, right? Because we just did exactly the same thing every round, and we found no value any round, right? None. So how good? Like, it's one of those things you've just got to realize that in your brains. Like, is what I'm doing getting value? Am I pushing myself? If neither of those things are true, if either one of them's true, it's okay, right? But if neither of them is true, you're doing something wrong. Like straight up,
Mhm.
right? If you're not pushing yourself and you're not finding value, you're just AFK. You're not doing anything, right? But if you're finding
Mhm.
value or you're pushing yourself, then either one of those, right? Like if you're pushing yourself and you're not finding value, okay, that's just unfortunate, right? Like maybe you got unlucky, maybe you just timed something wrong, right? Or
Mhm.
if you are finding value but you're maybe not pushing yourself, okay, maybe the passive play is working out. You can justify it, right?
Mhm.
But one or the other, right? Like
Yeah.
especially if you're like actively looking to improve, you have to be pushing yourself, right? Seeking the opportunities, really pushing yourself to be the best that you can be, right? And sitting on
Mhm.
site and being AFK is not the way to do that, right?
Yeah.
And especially if you go like you look at the extreme end of the spectrum of people that are really, really good, they're going to be walking
Mhm.
into the enemies the whole game because they're not scared. 100% confidence. They know they can walk over them, right?
Mhm.
So I'm just going to put this as like push yourself. Simple as that, right? And I don't just mean like push as in walk into a position. I mean force yourself
Yeah.
to play better, right? Force yourself to make plays. Think to yourself, I have to be the top frag of this game, right?
Mhm.
Like have that in your mind that you got to carry the game, right?
Mhm.
That should be your mentality if you want to be better, right? Believe that you're better. Make yourself be better. Play like you're better, right? Okay.
Okay.
Anything else? I've got a couple of other points. Don't buy a bulldog. It's maybe not as simple as that. There are situations where a bulldog is fine, right? But like
Yeah.
buying light armor and a rifle is okay,
Mhm.
right? I know that's kind of a specific thing, but yeah, it's better to have a rifle and light armor than anything else, really. If you can't buy
Mhm.
full armor, don't expose it like awareness, right? Awareness of where you can be shot from,
Mhm.
right? Like this kind of when we talked about slicing the pie last time, right? That was something that we talked about. Was
Mhm.
it? Slice
Yeah.
the pie, yeah, right? So that's all about not exposing yourself to multiple angles, right?
Mhm.
And that's just something we saw you do a couple of times particularly on your T side. It was something that you were doing
Yeah.
a lot, right?
Mhm.
And maybe that's part of the reason you're not pushing enough on your CT side is because maybe you don't actively realize it, but you're getting caught where you're getting caught in crossfires and you're dying to them. But that's because of your bad positioning, not because of you making a push, right?
Okay.
So awareness of where you can be shot from. Don't expose yourself to multiple angles. Okay. Anything else?
Mm,
Have I missed anything? I think we pretty much covered everything.
yeah, that most of the review essentially.
Okay, cool.